Hello. All right, we're in for a doozy today. So, yesterday we took a quick look at binary numbers. Binary numbers are base 2 numbers, are the foundation for the computing systems we know and rely on today. And the mathematics behind binary numbers was formalized hundreds of years before a computer had ever been made, or even really thought of. It became established globally that base 10 numbers, the decimal system, the numbers that we're familiar with today, were the best for solving problems and doing calculations with. People dabbled with other base systems of numeration, but mostly in recreational capacities, like the way we might enjoy playing with the Rubik's Cube now. It's math, but it's, for fun. But the binary numbers were not seen as like as purely recreational. It's, it seems there's a lot of evidence that they were seen as profoundly spiritual. And one of the mathematicians who showed a particular interest in the binary numbers was an all-time great. Wilhelm Gottfried Leibniz was a German polymath born in 1646. Leibniz published a paper on binary numbers, explanation of binary arithmetic, and this was in 1703, or maybe it was 1705. I found conflicting information. And this paper, though it's the focus of today, it's just a footnote to his unbelievable body of work. Leibniz is most famous for formalizing the calculus. He had a very famous dispute with Sir Isaac Newton over who invented calculus first. Newton ended up getting the credit, but the dispute was highly politicized and the process was a bit messy. But Leibniz's formulation of the calculus was a bit cleaner, and his notation stood the test of time. And it's closer to how we actually talk about calculus today. So in a way, Leibniz had the last laugh. This is a very well documented part of math history, this calculus drama. So you can definitely Google that or find out more about that on YouTube if that piques your interest. Who doesn't love a little drama? Anyway, back to Leibniz. In his lifetime, he contributed to law, psychology, physics, philosophy, natural science, and a boatload of other mathematical achievements. Crazy. And he even had the foresight to guess that the binary numbers he was working on would be of use for a mechanical computational machine. Yeah, crazy. But to him, the binary numbers were of interest due mostly to their relationship to the divine. There was an allure to defining numbers in this way, to just have two things, 0 and 1, represent all numbers. Leibniz writes, however, I am not in any way recommending this way of counting in order to introduce it in place of the ordinary practice of counting by 10. For aside from the fact that we are accustomed to this, we have no need to learn what we have already learned by heart. The practice of counting by 10 is shorter and the numbers not as long. And if we were accustomed to proceed by 12 or 16, there would be even more of an advantage. But reckoning by twos, that is, 0 and 1, as compensation for its length, is the most fundamental way of reckoning for science and offers up new discoveries, which are then found to be useful even for the practice of numbers and especially for geometry. The reason for this is that as numbers are reduced to the simplest principles, like 0 and 1, a wonderful order is apparent throughout. Leibniz, throughout his life, he was interested in creating this like universal language that unified all strains of human thought, the scientific, but also the more pseudo-scientific, as we refer to it today. And this he referred to as the characteristica generalis. And the binary numbers he thought seemed like a really good candidate for being the basis of this universal language that unified all thought. And beyond these concerns, which were a little more practical, he did believe that the binary numbers were the best way to explore theological truths. He believed in the Christian doctrine creatio ex nihilo, creation out of nothing. The idea that matter had to be created by a divine act, supporting the existence of a god. And this was, he thought that this belief, the binary numbers really were a great representation of this. Another quote from Leibniz, the creation ex nihilo through God's almighty power. Now, one can say that nothing in the world can better present and demonstrate this power than the origin of numbers, and it's presented here through the simple and unadorned presentation of 1 and 0, or nothing. Yeah, and Leibniz is not the only person who found the binary numbers to have a connection to spirituality, particularly Christian spirituality. 500 years prior, in the 1200s, Ramon Lull, a Spanish philosopher and former knight, which is awesome, designed a combinatorial process based off of binary numbers to prove statements about God and creation, and these were compiled and edited in a work known as the Arts. And even though I said that Leibniz is the man who formalized the binary numbers, the Spanish scholastic philosopher and mathematician Juan Caramuel y Lobkowitz, I don't know, never heard that said out loud, couldn't find it on the internet. I hope that's your name. Uh, may have technically published his formalization of binary mathematics first, about 3 to 5 years before Leibniz did in 1700. So Leibniz did not only get scooped when it came to getting credit for discovering calculus, but he also got scooped when it came to the invention of binary math. Poor guy. And similar to Leibniz, Lobkowitz used binary numbers to contemplate spiritual matters. He used the binary numbers he formalized to prove this spiritual concept. I guess it's like proving that we're all of the same substance. It's something like that. I don't really have great information here because I can't find Lobkowitz's work translated to English. It exists mostly in Latin, so I don't understand what he did exactly, but there does seem to be a large amount of proof that he believed the binary numbers were particularly suitable for proving spiritual truths. Leibniz and Lobkowitz were both interested in binary numbers and found them particularly spiritual, uh, suitable for proving spiritual matters. And these two mathematicians came to this conclusion what appears to be largely independently of each other. There's no evidence that Leibniz ever read Lobkowitz's work on binary, which is a Mathesis by steps, or that they ever really exchanged any ideas. Yet they both came to the conclusion that the binary numbers were particularly spiritual in nature. And I think they did have one curious thing in common, though. Lobkowitz was known to be proficient in Chinese, and Leibniz kept correspondence with a friend who was on a religious mission in China. His name was Joachim Bouvet. And we know that Leibniz's friend Bouvet exposed him to a specific Chinese text. And it is a reasonable assumption that Lobkowitz was exposed to this text as well, for it is a seminal text in Chinese culture. In 136 BC, this text was chosen to be one of the five classics by Emperor Wu of Han, meaning it was core to all Chinese belief and culture. And this book was a manual, a how to book about divination. Divination is we might more commonly refer to as fortune telling. And this ancient Chinese spiritual practice, you guessed it, is based off of binary mathematics. That's all for today. See you tomorrow.